A good morning to all of us again. We've had very interesting conversations this morning, especially from the first panel and from the just ended presentation. And I think our panel discussion is going to take off right where Ama's presentation ended. Ama, there was a key point in her presentation around unlocking domestic capital for Africa, and she listed a couple of recommendations, and I think this is where our panel comes in. So we've been talking about innovative concessional financing for SMEs for quite some time, and development partners have come up with various projects and programs to try to bridge this gap. And we are currently working on one such project for which this panel discussion is based on, which is the EU-funded GDI PSD, PSD meaning Private Sector Development Project, which is jointly implemented by RVO, Expertise France, and UNCDF. And the main aim or objective is to unlock financing for SMEs, or what we call small and growing businesses, to provide the technical assistance that's needed, and also to see if we can get some concessional funding to be able to blend and unlock more finance for SMEs. And so we are going to dive right into the conversation, but before we do that, let's quickly do a round of introductions. For my panelists, I would love to start with a lady, as we say, ladies first.
Thank you very much. So my name is Ya Edubasari. I'm a poultry farmer and entrepreneur. I'm a mother of 4, and I've been in the poultry sector for 7 years. 7 difficult years. Yes. Thankfully, each year brings about its own learnings, milestones, and we are going very fast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Ishmael Niyamanadudu. I'm the director and head of partnerships for the 24 Economy Authority. Before working with government, I've spent nearly 2 decades working with the United Nations, UNDP, and executive officer of the Sec General, where I've coordinated a number of development initiatives, including the work in the Sahel region, and also some of the humanitarian actions that UN has been involved with, including the work on Ebola and so on. So I've worked extensively across 36 African countries, and on humanitarian development finance, helping to reconstruct or rebuild countries and support their national development. As the director of partnerships in the 24 Economy Authority, my role is to work with people like you to be able to mobilize the capital, the technical capacity, and the thought leadership to construct the new economic model that we do have, which is the 24 economy, and I'm sure I will explain a bit more. But really, to make sure that we all succeed and build a nation that is very wealthy, a nation that has creating opportunities for the poor and creating more than 1.7 million jobs within the next 3 years.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Mamadou Baro, regional investment specialist based in Dakar. My role is to support some of the African countries to deploy catalytic capital, and also to design blended finance through UNCDF. So before joining UNCDF, I worked for 2 decades as a banker and also with DFI. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Joshua Ahiaba, also working with RVO. RVO is the Netherlands Enterprise and Development Agency, which is the implementing organization of the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the organization seeks to promote sustainable economies around the world. I'm currently the program manager for the program that Ya mentioned, the Green, Digital, and Inclusive Private Sector Development Program. And I guess there will be an opportunity to speak more about what the program does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's dive right in. Yeah, you said 7 challenging years. And a lot of the people in the audience, smiled. There was a reaction, meaning they could relate. I'm interested in knowing what has worked for you. I know there's been lots of development programs that we've rolled out. What has worked for you in terms of support? And where do you still see gaps? What is causing this challenge, as you initially indicated?
Thank you. So I was a full-time office administrator before I delved into the poultry farming. I branched to be my own boss because I was always in debt, and it looked as if the salary was not enough because I was growing. Yeah. When I started, I was quite fortunate to meet the era where women had quotas, where most decisions, the ecosystem would allot some spaces for women. Yeah, so it was a bit easier navigating, but age was catching up with me a bit because I started when I was 33 years, and the cutoff point for most opportunities was 35. I started with the first acceleration program. I've been to almost 7 acceleration programs, each with associated funding. So the Jobs for Youth, Migration and Employment Project by the British Council was my first acceleration program. And we received 3,000 cedis at the end of a year of training. The money was not so much per our expectation, but the knowledge we gathered there, so it was through this program that I was able to register my business, come up with my business model, how I was going to price and others. And I was led to register my business with other networks like the Women in Poultry Value Chain. I was able to open a business account and taught how to be disciplined with not mixing personal monies with the business monies, etc. Through that acceleration program, I was able to win some capital from the NEIP, the Presidential Pitch Season 2. We ranked 6th, and we got 25,000 Ghana cedis in grant. That was what helped us to secure a land for our current location now. We have scaled up and moved to Ebri. From there, we got onto the Ghana Poultry Project by the USAID. So where we got mentorship from industry players. We got to the Tony Elumelu Foundation, where we also got some grant to scale up the business. We've got Deal Source Africa currently, where they came in last year when we were at our wit's end. We took some loan from the bank, commercial loan, and I want to say on record that during that time, my husband was supposed to guarantee for me with his bank statement, which was something he didn't do. And I saw it coming because it was in July where I was forecasting. So I went to the banks and I had to produce a collateral. But luckily, we had gone through the Orange Corners by the RVO and the Orange Sparks project where we got some funding for research. So we had some euros in our account. So that was what we used as collateral. Unfortunately, the loan came late and we were highly indebted. So it was difficult we defaulted in paying back the loan and we lost our collateral. So business was difficult, very difficult last year. Deal Source Africa came in because we had gotten in contact with them some 3 years ago when we pitched to them and we were told our ticket size was small. So finally, they assessed our business and we were qualified for a returnable grant. That was what has sustained us now. We have paid most of our debts.
Great.
We have resourced because we got a working capital. Now we are back to business and we are thriving.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us, yeah. I see a couple of things that come up. The question of age for a lot of development programming, and we say youth it ends at 35, and for a lot of women who get into business late, that's quite a challenge because we are already almost at the 35, and we've seen financing that's not innovative, you're losing your collateral, and the timing, which is often a challenge. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Joshua, I'm coming to you. She mentioned RVO, she mentioned USAID. Obviously, development partners are supporting our SMEs. Based on what Ya has just shared and based on what you're doing under GDI PSD, where do you see opportunities to make more impacts and to improve on the lots of SMEs like Ya?
Okay, thank you very much. So, first of all, like you mentioned, RVO is the lead implementer for the EU-funded Green, Digital, and Inclusive Private Sector Development Program. And this is a 4-year program that has an overall objective of developing a greener, more digitalized, inclusive private sector in Ghana. The program is sector agnostic, but has a special focus on creative and heritage and also the healthcare and pharma sectors or industries in the country. The program is holistically designed, and so I believe that it situates the topic that we are talking about today. And what I mean by holistically designed is that it's not only building capacity of entrepreneurs, as we know, because over the years, entrepreneurs complain that they've had lots of trainings, lots of capacities, without the necessary resources and the required framework to work with. So what the program does is to actually improve the inclusive regulatory framework in the country, and that's touching basic policy, creating the enabling environment for the businesses to thrive. And then the second pillar or the second transformative output also looks at improving access to innovative green financing. So, financing that we are talking about comes in here. And financing, we have developed a very innovative way of financing businesses in this program, which is implemented through the Fidelity Bank. And it comes in 2 tracks. So the first track, after an SMS, after a business has gone through the necessary capacity building, which is the 3rd pillar, the business qualifies for up to 5,000 euros grant, and this grant is to get the businesses investor ready. So it is to get the business put the few things together that they can be investor ready. The second track of the financing bit provides up to 100,000 euros for the business. And here, 70% of this is a loan and 30% of this facility would be a grant. So if you ask me, this is how the program actually brings the financing mechanisms to businesses. Yeah.
Awesome. So if I understand you, you commit a grant of 5,000 to businesses to get them ready so they can have access to the 100,000.
Yes, so it is not 5,000, but up to 5,000 because the facilities are all need-based, Okay. So it is designed to actually meet the specific needs of the business. Even the repayment structure is all need-based. Some are bullet payment. For example, a business decides that the payment is every 6 months or 1 year and all that. So it's purely tailor-made facility for specific businesses. Yeah.
Right. Just a quick follow-up on that. What are the modalities? So, for example, if a business qualifies for this 100,000, we've had businesses who have lost collateral. Is Fidelity going to be asking the same requirements of these businesses to be able to access this 100,000 should they qualify?
No, so that's the innovative nature of the facilities that this program brings. So there is the de-risking aspect of it that it's also within the plan, embedded within the design. And then also the requirements are not really cumbersome like what we're talking about, collateral and what have you. But we have a list of criteria which largely includes to what extent the business is formalized or, so formalized in terms of registration, in terms of other legal requirements of business operation, and then also the years of operation. So The business should have also been in existence for some time. And then most importantly is the potential of the business to grow and contribute to job creation within the community. So these are some of the criteria that are attached to it. Yeah.
Awesome. So I hope businesses here are taking notes, and you can reach out to Joshua after this session. Right. Dr. Ishmael, we are back to you, government, the 24-hour economy authority. Based on what we've heard from Ya and Joshua, and based on the policy framework of the 24-hour economy, where do you see the opportunities for entrepreneurs like Ya to benefit very quickly from this policy, and where do you see the gaps or the challenges?
Thank you very much. So the 24-hour economy is not a project. I must clarify, it's an economy, a construction of an economic model in which Ghana becomes very productive. We produce more of what we need, and we have surplus, and that we export. And it is about targeting small, medium enterprises that would form the basis of production, and working up the value chain scale across several corridors. We are focused on essential commodities that are very vital to our economy, in terms of food security, in terms of one that add inflation to our food bill, in terms of one that is industrializable, that you can actually add value to create derivative products. The end goal of the 24-hour economy is really to create jobs. But truly, the process or our modus operandi or the approach to creating jobs is to construct an economy that addresses the serious constraints that are inherited in the economy. And that's what is very important to discuss. So if you look at, for example, the story that Ya mentioned and Joshua also alluded to in terms of finance, what we realized is that after talking to over 3,000 SMEs, and we have over close to 500 SMEs who have actually explicitly expressed their interest to operate within a 24-hour economy, to gain the incentives and so on. A number of things are important to stimulate them. Number one, they want to have an affordable credit, an affordable access to finance. They want to have an access to finance that is also patient, to enable them to build their equity. They want to have some support to be able to structure their governance systems as an enterprise so that their production becomes bankable. They want to have access to market. And so across the value chain of what SMEs represent, we have to be able to make this capital very important, very accessible to them. And so that speaks to different ways of looking at this capital, whether through forms of equity or some blend financing, or some of the financing that may come from capital funds and so on and so forth. So a combination of this capital is extremely important, and that's the work that the 24-hour economy really focus on by way of policy, ensuring that we will be able to provide bankable opportunities for the SMEs. So we are guaranteeing through the reformation of our Procurement Act to ensure that about at least 60% of what you produce can be offtake by government through their school feeding program, for example. And that already makes you very bankable, and you can get capital. At the same time, we're looking at the logistics issues that would minimize post-harvest losses. I was at Seshu also, and I don't know if most of you know, but they are the second largest producers of avocado in the sub-region. Now, 80% of what they produce, is disposed of as post-harvest losses. Avocado. I'm talking about avocado. 80%. And so, as a community, their headache every year is how they get rid of avocado. It is heartbreaking. And at the same time, when they produce plantain recently, 70% of what they produce, heaps and heaps, have to be discarded. The issue is not production. the issue is about efficient supply chain markets and so on, and addressing issues such as warehousing, cold chains, and the logistics to be able to bring that to market, making the market very efficient. So it's extremely important that we work in those spheres to look at them, not address the issue of SMEs and our markets or our economy in isolation, but looking at the entire production chain and trying to address that. So it's not just about finance, but it's also about bringing in logistics and technical capacity. And what we are doing through the work we are doing so far, the 25 economy, is working with the industry to make sure, and finance, to make sure that there is an SME facility that they can access, to make sure that we manage the logistics and so on, and also provide some stabilization fund to enable their goods to move to market, and using policy to make the SMEs thrive.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I find this avocado story very interesting. And as you said, I quickly Googled to see the market value globally, and it's a $16.9 billion market. It's expected that it will grow up to $47 billion by 2030 to 2035. And so if we are 80% of that is going waste, that's actually problematic, but it's also a big opportunity that we can tap into. Great. Mamadou, there's been a lot of talk about innovative financing, concessional finance, and I think that's what UNCDF is known for. How do you see the role of UNCDF in, all of this conversation and making financing accessible and affordable to the SMEs that we want to work for?
Thank you. Just to say that UNCDF has been set up 6 decades ago as a UN entity with the specific mandate to deploy capital. I will just speak on the avocado case. For example, we have a similar case in Kenya, where UNCDF is supporting agri-tech and fintech to really implement an efficient and climate-smart cold storage in Kenya. How we do that? We provide catalytic finance. First, we provide like a first loss to allow Kenyan bank to finance those agri-tech. We also provide a tariff support to the farmers, so to make sure that we have a clear revenue stream in terms of cash flow. And finally, we provided a mezzanine finance to those agri-tech. The idea is to really try to unlock the local capital and make sure that after UNCDF is out of the game, the local capital is able to finance. Because we really want to make the distinction between the risk, the real risk and the perceived risk. We believe that by having the local bank financing those agri-tech, understanding the business model, understanding the cash flow, it will help them build the model and support them in the later stage. This is an example. Another one is in Zimbabwe, where we try to support the MSME and SME in the green economy. And the idea was to have a kind of a fund. The issue of Zimbabwe, first, is a dollarized country, have the perceived risk, and we wanted to attack also a pension fund. So how we deploy that is we work with our partner like UNDP and UN Women, and we deploy a mezzanine and junior tranche loan to support the fund to invest in the SPV, and then the SPV now will target a kind of a riskier MSMEs, and we provide also a first loss. So the idea for us is to really try to deploy stronger capital, greater capital, and better capital. How? Better to make sure that it's going to the underserved. Greater, we need to see leverage. and stronger, we also want to see resilience. So this is how we are trying to really push in terms of UNCDF. One thing I wanted to highlight is UNCDF, we are not a bank, we are not a DFI, we are not credit rated. That's allow us to take more risk. And in fact, if it's not, there is no risk, the question we have is like, why should we be in this deal if there is no risk, if there is no, we are not really, this deal can happen without UNCDF. That means you don't need UNCDF. So that's what I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamadou. Before you put your mic down, I think you were here during the first panel where the pensions funds and other funds were talking about what it takes for them to be able to invest in alternatives. I think Ame's presentation also mentioned that. Do you see opportunities in Ghana where UNCDF is able to deploy some of these things based on the conversation you've heard this morning?
Yeah, indeed. We mentioned that we need to create the market. So there is this issue on building the pipeline. Pre-market investment is really important on this side. And also de-risking, because when you see pension fund, clearly this is not, it's not a freelance. We need the money to come back. So we need to see how we can de-risk this side. So this is something, with the program you are trying to do. Support also the FSP, the financial service provider. It's also important because at the end of the day, our continent is more SME driven. And we still, I'm not saying we still struggle to see how the financial service can support the MSME and the SMEs, but we really need to make sure that we have the business model that can match, those who are funding, like the pension fund, they can invest and get the money back. And those who need the funding, those are the MSME. And we can work on those sides also trying to support. Thank you.
Please, can I add just 1 minute on this in terms of what you can invest? So we import close to $3.5 billion of food bill, of which $350 million is the offals and gallbladders of animals. That's how we import. So we're changing that. We import $400 million per year of fish. Our offshore fisheries, by 2030, will become less than 10% in terms of output. So in terms of protein needs and food security, it's catastrophic. So we have the aquaculture corridor to really produce 700,000 metric tons of fish. So that's there for investment. We have we import $400 million of maize. Now, these are used for cereals, and we have off-takes agreement with Nestle and so on. There's that opportunity for you to invest in the maize corridor. There's an opportunity for you to invest in the cassava corridor and so on. There's also an opportunity for you to invest in a pharmaceutical industrial park where we're going to produce 70% of our vaccines and essential drugs. There's also an opportunity for you to invest in our machine technology. In West Africa, we import $11.7 billion of machine technology for industry. In Ghana, it's $1.5 billion. This is an opportunity for you to invest in that. And there's clearly an opportunity for you to invest through the impact stream, the workforce that will be required to power this industrialization. So in this room, it's a win-win situation if we were to invest in a 24 economy. Thank you.
Right, awesome. Thank you, Doc, for sharing with us. There's the aquaculture investment opportunity. There's a maize corridor, cassava, pharmaceutical, machines. Okay, I'm sure we would find these when we go to the website. Okay, awesome, great. I would come back to you, Doc. So we have financing here, we have technical assistance and support. So more like we have capacity development and all of that. Government is supposed to be the enabler or the glue that puts all of this together to ensure that it works for the SMEs. In other ecosystems where this has worked very well, government is championing it, and partners are not left on their own to decide where to go and what to do. How is the 24-hour economy authority doing this practically, as we say here?
Thank you very much. It's a very important question. So our approach is to build very strong strategic partnerships with the industry. Ghana Enterprise Association, cooperatives, businesses association, trade unions, and so on. And what we are doing today is really to identify the constraints that militate against their thriving or excelling in their businesses, and using policy to address them. One of which I talked about is procurement. The other is access to patient capital that will enable them to expand to scale. The other is a number of incentives that would enable them to engage in the market and thrive, including export opportunities and capacity support, working with enterprise support organizations and so on. So this partnership has enabled us to address a number of constraints with the private sector, particularly the SME. And in fact, one of the things that we are doing is to work with Development Bank of Ghana to access cheap concessional loans that can then be on-lent to the SME. We're also creating different funding streams that would enable impact funders to actually work with us so we can deploy this capital to the SMEs. So we are looking at what we are doing is our approach is to sit with SMEs to identify constraints that militate against their thriving and the ability to create more wealth and create jobs and be able to try to address it. But I'll end by saying that one of the critical elements in the room is having the workforce with the right mindset, with the right attitude, with the right skills to be able to power the businesses that we are looking at. Whether it's in production, agricultural products, or working in industry, or having the ingenuity to be able to work in the financial capital, to be creative, to create the instruments that are needed. That is extremely important. And it is something that we have to find a way to use impact financing to develop. Because once you develop the workforce, and mind you, by 2050, Ghana is going to be 50 million population. So we're going to add 15 million individuals into our economy. They represent your workforce. Now, if all of them don't have the right attitude, you have no one to actually hire to do things.
Right.
So we have to be intentional in investing in that workforce, linking them to industry, linking them to market, and make it happen. Okay. And that's what we want to work with a number of you here to be able to unlock. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we have to go to our audience now. If there are any questions, comments based on the conversation that we have. There's a hand at the back. Can you please?
Yes, hand at the back. The ladies, yeah, over there. Just kindly stand, your name, and a brief contribution, whether it's a question or a suggestion.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Alice. I work with Impact Footprints Africa. In relation to the earlier submission by Amma, listening to her, the impression I get is that for SMEs who do not get the opportunity to go through accelerators and receive the funding support she received, chances are that they wouldn't come as far as she has come. And so my question to those of us providing funding opportunities is that what are the efforts we are putting in place to be intentional about the type of SMEs we bring on board our programs so that it isn't such that we are simply recycling SMEs that have probably been through 3 or 4 accelerators before and already have all the experience and we are working with them, but rather we are getting down to those SMEs who haven't been exposed to such opportunities already and are also looking for similar opportunities. What intentional efforts are we making to reach them?
Okay, so I think I would take that up. So the program which I spoke about, the GDI PSD, as part of the selecting criteria or process, has a number of stakeholders on board like AGI and others who will bring various knowledge from various sectors, private sector, public, and other, motor and all that are there to ensure that all these things are taken care of. Secondly, unlike other projects where MSMEs or businesses are just picked randomly and are given facilities, MSMEs or businesses that apply for these facilities will go through some due diligence, and then after that, they are also taken through tailor-made capacity building, like I mentioned, which include acceleration, which includes incubation, and even post-acceleration tracking. So all these mechanisms have been put in place to ensure that businesses that go through this process are resilient and are contributing to the necessary growth processes. Yeah.
From our side, the authority, 24 Economy Authority, through our enterprise readiness program. We work very strongly with our strategic partner, the Venture Capital Trust Fund, who has developed an excellent bespoke product to really cater to the SMEs that you're talking about. And they pick you from, they assess your potential and work to tease out that potential and shepherd you through the point where they can actually invest in you. So I think that's a very interesting model to have, where you build relationship with prospects and make sure that you make it happen. At the same time, through our work with the Petra, looking at products that also cater to some of these investments, where the investment stream enables the opportunity for SMEs to participate in that particular investment stream that we create. And I think we've come to a point where we have to realize that unless we are extremely imaginative and creative, we will not be able to construct the kind of economy that we want to benefit from. It is ours for making. The economy we have in Ghana, and if you pull West Africa, we're talking over 1.3 trillion market economy. Ghana GDP is ballooned to 130 billion GDP per year, which means that goods and services are going through. Now, if you are not controlling 1% of that 130 billion GDP, and you're an investor here, you must ask serious questions because somebody else is doing it. So the way to be able to do it is really deal with that question that was posed to all of us. How do you work with prospects and actually shepherd it through unlocking the vast opportunity that they have? And so it questions the whole idea of risk. Because I think risk has to be very creative, managed. That's my own perspective. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome.
And let me just also add this. And also from RVO's perspective, prior to this program, RVO has been implementing the Orange Corners, which he mentioned, and a number of lessons have been drawn from that process, which would be incorporated into the implementation of this program. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello. Yes, so my name is Mary Ali from Northern Region. I'm an agri-processor. I share the concern of Madam right? Okay, so concerning the age limits of investors and partners being interested in 18 to 35 years. So what become of us who are above 35 years? And trust me, we are actually doing the work. Okay, we could mentor those young ones to be who they want to be. We are experienced, but these days they come and they are talking about 18 to 35 years. So could you be intentional about it, at least extending the year group to maybe 50 years so that it could be of help to us?
Okay. Yeah, wants to comment on that and then maybe.
Thank you very much. So I learned very early on in my journey to get on board, to get others on board. So you can form a team and you can be pitching with the person. Someone who is a bit younger, who shares in your dreams. So look at options like that, form a team so that you don't work as a silos. We as a business, Naya Success as Gis Farms, we've had to address a lot of post-harvest losses, and we partnered with other farmers because you realize the education you have, they don't have. So in times of our lean seasons where we need to fall on others for support or to serve our customers, what they are producing is under standard. The quality is a bit under standardized. So you need to form partnerships, join networks, and get people on board. So with our innovation, we add value to chicken. We smoke some, we dress some, cut them into pieces. We have chicken snacks ready to eat, chicken kebabs, chicken chips, and others. So it helps to save chicken from losing the capital it can generate. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. But I think this is also a call on development partners and governments when we are designing these programs to take into consideration our context. I think we get the 35 from the AU definition of what youth is, but we might have to push ourselves looking at our country context to expand a little bit, maybe not 50, but to expand a little bit what we have.
Perhaps you cannot.
Sorry.
Perhaps you cannot substitute experience with academic intelligence, and I think that's the difference, and we have to be very mindful of that.
Yeah.
Somebody have accumulated years of experience, and that person at their age beyond 35 maybe will be able to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Others could also accumulate some academic intelligence that enable them, inform them the new way of doing business. I think the question is partnership, how you pull together and invest together and actually win together. I mean, that's something that is lacking in our culture. How people work together, pull together, and win together. It's a way to think about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have Angel here who's alerting us, but we have just 2 minutes, and so we can't take any more questions. We are sorry. But I want each of us maybe max 30 seconds. What are you doing now as we move out of here to ensure that inclusive capital gets to SMEs and no one is left behind? Yeah, maybe for you, the perspective would be, what are you doing to make SMEs more attractive to investors? Because you represent the group on the stage.
Thank you. So I learned something which is very crucial to every business who wants to unlock funding, which is the data room. As a simple bringing together the requirements, your documents that will be needed, and these documents are blueprints of the business that keeps being asked by every capital investor. So is your business registered? Do you have a business bank account? And regulatory compliance and others. So it's a simple data room. Just put them together, and you are sure to get found.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Ishmael.
Yeah, for us, we are pulling together a wide variety of sources to create funding mechanism that will provide cheap patient capital to SMEs. And at the moment, we are onboarding SMEs to work with the various funding sources. So please, if you're interested, send us your business plan or reach out to me at enterprise@24hplus.gov.gh. enterprise@24hplus.gov.gh. And please, write attention, Dr. Ishmael, and I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Mamadou, your final
Yeah, I think the question is most for you because,
Yeah, because I'm.
you know, no, actually, with the new program, you will be supporting the ecosystem. We'll support also the financial service provider with the aim really to make sure that the right capital is allocated uh, rightly to the SME. Those who need TA will get TA. Those who need grant will get grant. Those who need loans will get loan. That's really the aim. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua.
Yeah, so I think for our view, it's clear that through the program, we are providing holistic business development support. And I would like to encourage stakeholders here to get collaborative, start working together with each other, complement each other's effort, and not really duplicate and unnecessarily repeat what others are doing. And then from my side, most importantly, I think that we all collectively will have to look at the de-risking aspect of such facilities for businesses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the project team will be outside. Please feel free to come talk to us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for this second plenary.